Welcome to everyone who has joined us at the second Microsoft Loop user group session. I say second, we do have two sessions each month to try and cover the rest of the world, but this being our second time that we have met together and talked about a different topic. So thank you for coming along. Microsoft Loop is an interesting topic for sure, and the way that it's been rolled out. And we figured that as part of this user group, it's about trying to learn together as a community. We've got the privilege of being able to be there at the genesis of it all, see it gradually change, and we've often approached it, certainly some of the people on the call here who I know are active in the community, that the best way to learn is to learn together and to observe different things, share different stories, and the like. And that's where we're sitting today with our topic is looking to Rebecca Jackson and Norm Young to help myself to show you a few different use cases for how we are using Loop. So we're excited to share that with you. For those of you joining too, and maybe the first time, we are using a Miro interactive whiteboard, which I'll talk a bit more about later. But that becomes the place where we can share our resources. We also use it later interactively for dropping up a few things on some sticky notes and ideas and have a bit of fun with that. But let's move along and just say a bit more about the user group. Oh, gee, I didn't even change that word first. You're in, hopefully, in the Miro interactive whiteboard, and we'll use that a bit later. There's a link in the chat that I'll post a bit later too. Yeah, the purpose for the user group, we are trying to learn together, as I said, as a community. And there's some of us on the call too where our job also covers over adoption and helping people actually make sense of what these tools are and aligning it to help their regular day. Not necessarily a product looking for a solution, but actually the other way around, finding how people are working, what are their challenges, and certainly around hybrid work and working together at different times and different places, how we might help with that. So we certainly discuss adoption as well as some of the technical questions that might turn up. And also, as a user group, we're trying to discuss between ourselves some of the stories that we have and what is succeeding, what's actually helping people to understand. Are you finding a way of describing Loop and letting people get on board in that way? So the user group is about that too, to help with that journey. So our format, I said this a bit earlier as we're coming into the start of the meeting, is a 2020 kind of thing, not the year. Okay, no, that might be a trigger thing to say, but it's more the format of TED Talk style length, so that Norm, Bex, and I will sort of take up 20 minutes initially, and then we break out to groups. We actually use the breakout feature here in Teams, and I deliberately try and size the groups so that you've got 3, 4, or 5 people to have a chat with, because that makes it a bit more engaging than just sitting there listening to us, watching, and then trying to frantically type something in the chat. That's what's missing from our online events today, engagement and on that smaller scale, where we can feel like we're listened to and share. So we'll explore that. It seemed to work reasonably well last time, though I tried to preempt the group sizes, and I think some people, they're like, okay, we've seen Greg, breakout times. Okay, I got to go. I'm going to go grab some lunch now. So some people ended up in groups of 1. That was fun to try and fix with teams and breakout rooms. So we'll see how we do again. Yep, within this interactive whiteboard, it is a presentation. It's also a conversation, and we try and collaborate a bit here and share some of our ideas in our post-it notes. It also may be, I know that I'm jumping the gun here a bit, or getting ahead of myself in the roadmap, but maybe this is something of what Loop might be like, because we're seeing this in renders where you've got this canvas style place to work and people are co-authoring and cursors are floating everywhere and people are up here in the top right hand corner. Oh, look, we're active and we're in the loop. So I'm trying to give us that experience as well to see what it might be like and almost coaching us towards adopting that way of working. So that'll be fun. Today, let's just get this all sized up now. We've got the most important people there. I'll let each of you introduce yourself, maybe just starting at the top with Norm.
Hello, everyone. My name is Norm Young. I'm coming to you from St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. That will mean nothing to you, and that's fine. If I look over my left shoulder, I can see some of the mist coming up from Niagara Falls. And if I look over my other shoulder, across Lake Ontario, I can see the skyline of Toronto. So that was St. Catharines, spelled with an A, not an E. And if you're a fan of the rock band Rush, they got started in my hometown. And there's a famous song that they wrote called Lakeside Park. And that's where I spend my free time with my family when I'm not working at a company called Tygraph. And at Tygraph, we make uh, analytics solutions for Microsoft 365 adoption and usage. Uh, but I haven't always done that. I used to work in education for the last 10 years. And when I was in education, I was doing business intelligence, but I got into collaboration using Office 365. And it's as a practitioner there that I came to learn about the community and have met many people like yourselves, and am quite happy to be here today. So thank you for getting up in some cases as early as 4 in the morning. I'm sure some of you are up as late as well to hear what I have to say about Loop, and it's a pleasure to be here. So thank you for having me.
I think it's my turn. I'm going to bounce off Norm's intro a little bit. And I'm definitely not mocking him when I say to the right of me, I see my bathroom, and to the left of me, I see my laundry pile, because I'm in my little office. I don't have a lovely view, but I'm coming to you from Melbourne, Victoria in Australia, which to First Nations people of this country is Wurundjeri country. And what I loved about Norm's intro is that it was so descriptive. And for me, like Wurundjeri country, I'm in the city of Burundara, which it means where the area that's shaded kind of loosely. And when I first moved here, it's very green and leafy, lots of beautiful trees in the streets. And in autumn, it gets all brown and crispy and things like that. So it's very lush. And what I think about is that it actually used to be a forest, a densely forested area. So it's actually quite beautiful here, but always has been. And thanking the First Nations people for keeping it wonderful for us for so long. But I'm Rebecca Jackson from Avanade. I'm a senior consultant. Started there very well, nearly 6 months ago actually now, so not too recently, I guess. And I work in workplace advisory. My background's in digital workplace and employee experience, and I'm a Microsoft MVP. So basically, I've been nerding out about intranets and enterprise social and unified communications for a long time. And which is why I'm nerding out about Loop. I'm very glad that Darrell set up this user group for us.
Thank you, Norm and Bex. And this is the cool part about being a part of a community and meeting people and hearing different stories and backgrounds. It's fantastic. I'm Darrell Webster, also known as Darrell as a Service, and I work in change and adoption management for WM Reply New Zealand. And I also talk both sides of the fence. I know a bit of tech, so I can get myself in trouble as well, but it does certainly help me with conversations with adoption and change. So we three are going to, I guess, play paper, scissors, rock and figure out who's going to go first. But we're going to try and share with you some examples of how we've been using Loop and how we're seeing Loop being used within our organizations. And maybe we'll just see also as a recap as we go through that what Loop actually is if this is the first time you're seeing Loop and you just thought you'd join the user group. Oh, you know what? Let's let Rebecca have the honor of going first. So I'll go on mute, and Bex, feel free to take control of the screen and share your desktop.
Nice. So I'm going to attempt to present my PowerPoint in PowerPoint Live. Let's see if the technology gods are going to be kind to me this morning, because I had an incident recently where it didn't quite work and there were lots of people. And I reckon it's doing the same thing to me again, Darrell.
We are seeing a slide with a mic pointed at us.
Oh, see, I'm not seeing the preview. Why would it do this to me?
I don't know, but if you need me to click, I can do that. If you want to click along with me, and
yeah, I'm happy for you to
cool.
click. So there's a lot of talking to the first slide. So
You just tell me next slide or next click or whatever.
I know, don't we love it when people do that, because it's so seamless?
Or you could just go. Yeah. Okay.
So what I've put together for you this morning, or this afternoon or this evening, is a karaoke caper in loop. So I'm going to set the scene to start out with. We're in a team meeting. There's lots of us in this team meeting, and a new person has come to the team meeting and they're introducing themselves. Hey team, this is me. This is what I'm about. And they disclose to the group that they love a bit of karaoke. And I personally am excited by this because I love a bit of karaoke. And it's definitely been a while since I've been up on stage, because I'm one of those weird people who actually likes the karaoke on the stage. Just because, rather than those little boxes where it's just a few people, I'm like, I want to stage, I want to rock out. And so they're talking about that, and the team's like, yeah, we miss karaoke. Let's do team karaoke. So someone drops into the chat a loop. And I was sitting there going, oh, nice. Someone's using Loop, excited by that. I was like, well, what a cute way to use Loop. And kind of, fast forward a little bit after that meeting, Darrell puts the call out. Does anyone have any cool Loop stories to share? And I was like, oh, I think karaoke's cool, and that's a Loop story. And then that took me on a journey, which was more than I thought it would be. Because, Darrell, if you want to seamlessly go to the next slide, someone dropped a loop into the chat. And so when Darrell put the call out, I wanted to get some screenshots, because I didn't take screenshots at the time. I didn't think of it. I just thought it was cool. And Darrell was like, someone do a press. I'm like, well, I need screenshots, right? So I go looking for these screenshots, and if I had like an audio soundtrack, maybe there'd be a little bit of a record scratch when this screen drops in, but it might be too subtle, I don't know. This is actually not a screenshot of the loop that was in that meeting, and I'm going to explain why and some of the things I found when I was looking for this information. So this is not the loop from the meeting, but one of the first things I want to kind of call out is the loop in the meeting was awesome. A few people jumped in, and I've got a screenshot of that a little bit later. But because there was so many of us, very active chat in the meeting, the loop just went away. Kind of like seconds, it was gone from the screen. So only a few people contributed, and that's kind of my first thing about loop. And I've said, Darrell's probably heard me say this before, you can't pin a loop really nicely right now. So even though you've got this cool feature in a meeting, which I absolutely love, there are some little things that are niggly for me in terms of actually keeping it being engaging into its true purpose of taking people out of that chat conversation to focus on something. Well, that's, once it's moved away from the chat, who else is kind of able to be engaged in that unless they scroll and go looking for it? So I started looking for this loop, which obviously I didn't find in the meeting chat. But if we go to the next screenshot, next slide there, Darrell, what I did discover is because I started with search, I was like, well, it's a Teams meeting. I'm going to search for a few keywords and see if I can find the meeting, find the chat, etc. So I typed a few keywords and then landed on, I'm going to type karaoke. I can't bloody find this team meeting. Type in karaoke, and I was like, oh, the loop has actually come up in Team Search. That's actually quite good and quite useful. So I was like, cool. I selected that. That was a pleasant surprise. Selected it, and then on to the next one. I've actually got access to that original loop. Which is cool. So you can see people's song selections. You can see only a few people were in there. Now, my recollection is I think there was maybe 30 people or more, 30 to 40 people in this meeting. It's quite a large team meeting, like a big get together. And I think there were more karaoke fans than that, or at least I want to think so. Important note, my karaoke song is What's Up for Non-Blondes. I've been known to do it at conferences. So this was cool. I found the loop. What I didn't like about this, though, is that it's not in dark mode. So I run in dark mode. I run my web view in dark mode, but my loops aren't in dark mode. So just a little note there. I'm going to give that feedback to the team. Say, hey, I like my dark mode. I hate like the big glaring white screen. So I didn't want to stop here. I'm like, I want to find the screenshot in the chat to get the picture for Darrell for the session. So if we go to the next one, I've gone to the team meeting via my calendar and trying to like, where was this team meeting? It was a channel meeting. This is a very important part of the story. So I've gone to our channel and I've gone to the channel meeting and I'm like, it's a channel meeting. So the chat doesn't exist anymore. It's a conversation. And if you have a keen eye or a large screen, you might notice that this goes for a while. It's like 1,289 replies because it's the conversation from every single meeting since it was set up, I think in sometime in 2021. So I had to scroll through to find the message to get the screenshot to show all of you and to show Darrell. And if we go to the next one, Darrell, you'll be maybe as disappointed as me, perhaps not surprised if you've discovered this already, that my gorgeous little loop component is just a link. It's gross. So I was a little bit disappointed by that. The good thing is that I can still select it, but I was like, where's my rich little experience, which I, know because it's a conversation now and not a chat anymore. I miss out on that beautiful little experience. So that's my story. I've kind of summarized my little points there on this final slide for those of you who like some words if you're coming back to it. What did I discover in this process? I mean, I genuinely think Loop is great for gathering ideas in a meeting, but I think there are some challenges, some adoption challenges right now, because when people discover these little nuances, it makes them less inclined to want to use it. Chat moves super quickly and Loop goes with it. That's just a fact. So we need a way to resolve that issue. And the pinning and tabs, I've tried pinning and I've tried tabs. It's too hard, basically. It's too difficult for anyone other than the intrepid to take advantage of it. Search in Teams is great though, and I haven't said that a lot actually, because search in Teams is sometimes not great, right? But it searches for the loop files, which is excellent. I was really impressed by that. Sad about no dark mode, but I think that'll be resolved eventually. It seems like an obvious one. And that component, like what I think one of the real like big value items of Loop is that visual component. It draws your eye, you can see it live. And the fact that we lose that when a meeting chat is actually a channel meeting, which is actually a conversation because Teams, we don't get that. So hopefully that's something the Teams team are already thinking about and fixing, or the Loop team are fixing with Teams, or whoever needs to fix it is fixing. The end.
Thanks, Bex. It does really reflect a number of people's thoughts around Loop and wanting to use it, but a cool story, definitely, and taking us on a journey of how you discovered where it was and how how findable it was. Yeah, nice stuff. We'll probably save questions and bits and pieces for the breakout rooms. Let's shift over to Norm. Feel free to share your screen or do what you need to do, Norm.
Will do. And I too am going to brave.
I hope it works for you. This is I'm gonna investigate now
Go with
because it's
this.
not a once-off for me. This has happened before, but hopefully it's just a me problem.
This does look good, and this is my first time using it. So, Rebecca, I love the story. It was about something that you wanted to use and didn't have to use, and I think that will go a long way into introducing the new feature to people, and maybe it's something that they would be more inclined to adopt. For my purpose, I was using Loop as a tool that I could leverage when I'm doing internal training. So, all of my attendees are in the tenant, they're going to have access to these files. And so it would be all good and well to have a traditional Word document on the screen with the agenda of all of the items that I wanted to go through and keep Alt tab, back and forth. But at the end of the day, I could make them dizzy and I would probably just lose my place. I needed something that would give me that checklist style document that I could go through to make sure that I was staying on my talk track, I was covering the important points, but I also wanted a tool that users could follow along to see where we were building to. And so what you're seeing is the actual training agenda that I use when I'm doing the internal training for this solution we have called Customer Success Portal. And I create the loop once, and I build out all of the content using the loop checklist component, and then edit it in OneDrive. And then as I'm preparing for the other sessions, I can reuse it as a template. And so this is, what it looks like. It's nothing fancy, but it gave me the ability as I'm presenting, and I'm a single screen user. And so what you can see is the experience that I had when I was doing the training session. You will notice that I have the application that I'm sharing. And again, I don't want to keep alt tabbing between agendas or other notes. I can also monitor the chat window. And you can also see that I've shared the template in the meeting chat as part of the files option inside of the meeting. And then off the screen, I have the loop document, or whatever it's called, opened up in my OneDrive, and I'm going through. And if I hit a spot, I will check. I'll hit another spot, I'll check. And so I'm on track, and I'm not overwhelming people with alt tabbing and kind of a substandard experience. I'm able to monitor the chat window. And so I've really optimized the real estate and my experience when I'm presenting. I find it's a great way also for users to follow along, like I said before. So that was the experience. It is something that I repurpose and reuse. And so how would you do that? You can go into the chat window and just start creating your agenda, but it's not the same experience. Like the chat window is so narrow, it comes in as a link. So it's better. It's a better experience for me and for the users if I drop it into the file sections, let them upload it and follow along in their own windows. So how did I create this template? Well, you can do it in the chat window. We can do it all here, but they're stored inside of your OneDrive if you're creating them through the chat. So I simply went into OneDrive, went into my files, located the team chats file, found my original source loop document, and then simply copied it to make a new copy. And then when my meeting was about to start, connected into the files and then uploaded and shared it out. And so the experience was my users come in, they're focused on the content that I'm training, right? Like this screen, they're given the loop component and I'm able to follow along. So it's just a segregation of content. And if they want to follow along, they can. Otherwise, they're just listening to me and hopefully taking things in. So Loop honestly has low adoption inside of our tenant. It's something that hasn't been picked up on yet. They don't necessarily understand that it's available or that what the positioning of it should be. But that's all good and well. I'm able to take this as a template that helps me, helps them. But in the future state, my hope is that they can come into this original document for subsequent training sessions and don't make this loop document about me. Make it about us, and to have that real-time collaboration. Let them put in their notes. You can't see it, but on the bottom, there's a Q&A section. So it would be a great situation, one that I need to advocate for the next time I do training, is to start typing in your questions or adding your own notes or adding screenshots or something that can take this from a simple agenda to transform it into something more meaningful and informational. So that's one of my first experiences with Loop. I do believe that it is going to be transformative for collaboration, but there are a lot of unknowns for me at this point. And I do think that it is good to use for safe scenarios. This training agenda, this is not going to be a core data store or an official record source. So using it in this temporary state where you use it, dispose of it, but there's still value there, repurpose it. So that's my experience, and I hope that it validates some of your own findings, and I'm happy to learn more about how you're using Loop. So thank you.
Thanks, Norm. It's interesting to see the pathway you took there too, and how you thought, okay, I'm going to make a copy of this thing so I can create loops in my own time. The natural progression for a lot of people is, okay, how do I start this loop? I want to have a look at it. Oh, I need to find someone to have this conversation with and add the loop to it. Okay, where's my demo buddy or someone who's used to trying stuff out with me as an early adopter? So maybe I can pause there before I show some of our stuff. Thanks for coming along, Matt. The thing about Loop is it's really a quite a pivot from where and how Microsoft will usually release things. They usually have some kind of minimum viable product, which is an application or a web something or whatever, and you can go there and you can experience it at the individual level or collaboration level. They sort of had that back in Build, I think 2019, when they said, try this fluid thing out. Here's the link and away you go. And I tried it out and thought, feels like a fancy notepad. I'm a bit underwhelmed. But what's happening now is, okay, the Ignite announcement, they've showed this Marvel type promo with slow it down and look at every frame to see what's the vision of Loop and all the hidden Easter eggs inside it. It was crazy. Big renders. They call them movies, actually, funny enough. And it gave us a hint to what the future looks like. But then what was released was this experience in chat. And people are like, okay, that's great, but you haven't taken me on the usual journey. I want to go somewhere and play around with something in a window and start to use it. And I know before, I'll quickly get on to demonstrating, but one thing I want to position here is that the reason that they've started it, the chat experience and collaborating within this Loop bubble or component or embed experience is they want to take that everywhere. They want you to feel like once it goes to Outlook, as Phil highlighted in the chat, that's the next place we're going to see it. Then it's about collaborating in Teams chat and email conversations. Wow, okay, or even meetings, as we've found too. Two very, very common places, three very common places that we're going to work together and discuss things. As Bex highlighted, the channel experience is not there today. Therefore, it affects meetings. And so you just see this highlight and you've got to go off to the full loop in the office.com page. But once that's livened up, great. Organizing loops, okay, they're all in OneDrive, or okay, that's a bit messy, what do I do? All sorts of discussions there. I'll leave them there for discussion in the breakout groups, and I'll show you a quick example of how I've been using Loop at work. I'm going to zoom in on two characters. You've got myself on the left and my demo buddy Matt on the right. So I'm simulating what I'll be doing at work. So Matt and I, we might be in a connection where we want to meet, and we do frequently meet, and sometimes we take notes together where we're going through tasks. Maybe it's a one-on-one, and I'm sort of maybe in as manager and covering off certain things. So I want to actually have a persistent place where Matt and I can take notes together and work together. And this is where, within my chat with Matt, I'm going to add a loop. And if this is the first time you've seen it, or maybe you've forgotten that it was there, this is why loop isn't being used so much, because it's that tiny little unassuming thing at the bottom of chat, which probably just appeared without much fanfare. And maybe people didn't introduce an organization to it, but there it is. Add a loop to a conversation. And this box has to be empty too, by the way. If I go to add a loop and it's already got text in it, then I don't have the ability to add the loop. So let's do that. We'll go through. I'm going to add a loop here for Matt and myself. I'll just start off with a paragraph. Those are a few different choices I can use to start off, the components that we use for loop. And at this stage, it is just beginning to set itself up to save that file and name it. I'll give this a name, and it'll be one-on-one meetings with Matt and Darrell. Now that might be obvious because of where it is, but I gave it that name because when I go back and have a look for it as a file, or when it turns up in other places that we might be collaborating, then I'll know where it's going to be. I could do this. I could change the permissions on the link, so this is going to be just between Matt and I. That feels like it's appropriate. Why is that tiny? Let's try that again. Oh, wow. Okay. First time I've seen that, maybe because I'm zoomed in. Familiar looking permissions box, all right? It's what we see for SharePoint and OneDrive. But I'm going to put this as people currently in the chat. So that means that Matt and myself, we're not going to share it beyond our chat, and it's not going to be able to be edited or viewed by other people. And that sets the permission for the link. Got it. Okay, so what am I going to do here? Well, it's not available for Matt yet, so I will send it because I want to start collaborating with Matt. I don't want him sitting there waiting while, can you not see this yet? No, I can't. Oh, that's right. I forgot to send the loop in the chat. So now that I've done that, you can see that Matt is in there now too. He has the file open. Here it is over here. Now, what we'd both do, and this is a feature that is rolling out to our organizations, is pin that to the chat. So that means just like we'll be able to pin other chats, but I'm pinning the loop so that it's always available and easy to find in that stream of conversation that Bex had talked about earlier. But easier to do that on a one-on-one basis, isn't it, from that perspective? So I would say, hey, Matt, you should probably do the same just so that we can both see it. Well, I forgot, actually. There you go. When I pin it, it's pinned there for him as well. So that's a good point. So how would I use this? Well, in one sense, I could use this as a running list of notes. So I've actually found as I've used this with people at work and by setting up a loop for each of us in our one-on-one chats, that I tend to have this section called meeting notes. And I'm all into styles and formatting, so I like to give that a heading. And then what I end up doing is as I start a note, I'll always put it at the top of that section. I'll use /, I'll hit date, date, and then that immediately puts in an option there to add today. And then I'll just start taking notes. So maybe that'll be a bullet pointed list, / bullet. And then we'll just start jotting our ideas down. Idea 1, thing 2, etc., etc. Now that's a relative date, so it means that when I come back a couple of days later, a week later or whatever, then that's going to be whatever that date was, and it'll also tell me how many days have passed since that. And so the next time that I do that, I'll just give it a bit more space, do the same thing, and I'm able to continue to use that as a rolling list of notes that we have together. None of this scrambling around to find a shared OneNote. And look, I'm still a fan of OneNote, but I'm not a fan of its syncing performance. I often am tapping my fingers waiting for things to sync. So I'm excited to use this. Now, what else could I do here? I'll just finish off on this before we bust out into breakout groups. / I reckon that it would be good to have a task list. So this is maybe follow-up tasks that might come out of our conversations and our notes. And it can be a rolling task list, swap it out, complete it, make it disappear, whatever. But this is a table, and I can add a task name, task 1, and then assign that to Matt. So I've used an at symbol to get Matt, and now Matt is mentioned in there as a task. I could give him a week to complete that one. And over here, Matt will also, if he wasn't in this chat right now, he's also going to get a notification to say that you were mentioned within that task list or that loop experience. So there's a number of different other things that I'm starting to do and use within there, different components, tables, and all sorts of things. But the point is that it's a space that's really simple for us to both get to. We're not hunting and searching and pecking and thinking, okay, what is it? Where is it? We're not waiting for synchronization to catch up. And lots of benefits, but like Bex had said, I want to be able to see us to add a tab for a loop. so that it's not a pinned thing, because we might want to use the pin chat for some other feature. We only get to pin one thing, but I want to be able to add a tab. And what I think I saw, yeah, one of our people at work had tried to use the website tab as a way of taking the link to the loop and adding it to the website tab. And yeah, the thing about the website tab is that it doesn't necessarily sign you in all seamlessly. So that doesn't work so well. It means that each time we open up the tab, it doesn't sense that we're signed into Teams and just pass us through to the loop. So I want to see a loop app there for a tab, and I think that would make it far easier for one-on-one chats, group chats, and certainly we'll see a loop experience come into the channel. So that's another interesting use case. We come to a section where we're going to break out. I know roughly we try to aim at like a 10-minute intro, 20 minutes to chat and demo and have fun, but this is the time where I'm going to try and set up breakout groups and do that really quickly. So this will be where you can go off and talk about some of these things or discuss some of the questions that I've left in the interactive whiteboard. I will copy the link to this board again, just in case in your discussions you feel that you will interact and add some things to post-it notes. So there we go. We've got a link to the board. So there'll be more people joining me up here. And I'll just also unlock a couple of these areas too, so that they're all ready to go. Oh, no, they're all ready to be able to jump in and add your thoughts. So on the board, can do this great thing here where I say, bring everyone to me. Share your experiences. So as you're chatting within the breakout groups, you maybe will use this board and then jump in and double click on a post-it note and say, I'm using it for one-on-one meetings. And away you go. Don't worry too much about whether you drag things in the wrong place or the right place or whatever. Just feel free to drop stuff there. So how are you using Loop today? What use cases you're coming across? If you don't have any, maybe discuss some of the ones that you've seen today. So that's the one question. The other question down here, what is helping or hindering you for using Loop components today in your organization? I think we discussed some of those things as well. So that's interesting. Now, I'll just quickly kick off our breakout rooms. We're going to use automatic assignments. How many people have we got here? We do that quick division of, yeah, maybe we'll make 4 rooms. And because it's a roulette, it will mean that you will turn up with anyone. I don't want you to sit here and wait for me to assign specific people to specific rooms. So I'll create the rooms really quick and then I'll start them. If you haven't experienced breakout rooms before, what happens is this meeting gets put on hold and then you get pulled over to effectively another private meeting. So when I start those up, I'll assign participants. Let's get through and oh no, they're all automatically assigned, so that's good. I'm going to open the rooms and it might take a few seconds before you get beamed over to that meeting. I can see we've still got most people on the call, so just have a little bit of patience and you should be there with at least 3 people. I'll hit open now and then after 20 minutes I'll bring us back, we'll have a bit of a chat and then we'll finish off. There is no recording occurring in those breakout rooms. That's our space to chat and talk, safe place. You can say what you want and truly connect with the people in that room. And I'll try and get around and join some of you. So opening those rooms and you should be beamed over there soon. Talking, so yeah, feel free to join in.
So we at my company, actually, we have purchased tygraph. So we use tygraph at EBSCO Information Services. And the other quick sidebar, and we can save it for the end, is I was curious about y'all using Miro versus whiteboard. And because that's a project I'm working on. I'm very new to the company. I just started in November. But we're very new to Loop. We've fooled around a little bit with some of the components. Like you were having the bulleted list and within chats, and then really just kind of information gathering of what's coming. I liked some of the thoughts you were saying about, and it's hard for us within our excuse me, in our digital workplace team, that you get the cool new features and it's like, oh, let's go find that, and then let's go, but it's not always the right thing. And then we're so spread out geographically in different departments and across the company that also you have to kind of pick your, not battles, but pick your, what opportunities are we going to prioritize. But it's also still very new, so we really just fiddled around with it a little bit and then tried to information gather.
Yeah, good points. Any thoughts on that, Norm or Bex?
Well, the picking your battles, that stands out to me as well. In my previous job, working at a large university, introducing any new tool to a large organization has challenges. So running out the door advocating for Loop to the masses and making it an official service offering wouldn't be something that I would be interested in doing at this point in time. So there will be people who will want to use it because it's new and shiny. And so how do we place this in with all the other tools available so there's no confusion? And I love the idea that this is where you go to collaborate and start to build up that initial content before it moves out to something like a document or a page or some other type of artifact. It's a great tool to use in that content lifecycle.
Content lifecycle, key thought there.
Yeah, I think one of the things that came up in the this morning discussion that I was in, the two people in the room I was in were sort of really familiar with running champion programs. And I think this is the sort of thing that is great to show the people who you know are kind of into trying the shiny things, which is, if you don't have champions, find them, or use your champions, and say, this is what it's about and this is what the plan is for the future. Have a play, tell me what you think, and then find the use cases that are kind of appropriate for your organization. And that's, I feel like, at the stage that Loop is at, it's about seeding, and probably also, I think, to earlier in the call, having people be aware that they're not being forced to do anything, or change anything, that it's something they can play with and see if it works for them.
Yeah, very good points. Yeah, your group of early adopters, they're magical people, because they also are interested in trying to improve the way that they work within their team, within their organization. And we can learn a lot from them, because when they try something out, they're often trying to apply it to a real situation that they're facing. And they can get very creative. I mean, we're not just talking Loop. They can get very creative with all sorts of technologies, and we can learn so much. So they're always a valuable group of people, and perhaps we're all early adopters because we've all joined the user group and we're trying things out. The interesting thing about Loop at this point, I do a fuller, larger presentation on this and talk a bit about Loop and where it all fits and how did we get to this point. It's one of those products Microsoft have really rolled out in quite a different way than what we're used to. We usually get an application, which is a minimum viable product that has a window, and we can go in and use it as an individual and try things out. And it might not do everything that we need it to, but at least we've got an application we can go to. For this, Loop is going to be not just an application, but eventually it's going to be in the different places that you work and the places that you have conversations. We know the next thing that will be rolled out is you'll be able to add a Loop component to an email message. So another place that we have conversations. And so all the focus at the moment, I believe, and I'm sure that the Loop product group are divided into all sorts of teams to develop things, but it seems a lot of the effort at the moment is enriching the text and collaboration experience, adding different components and adding new things to that. So expect to see that list of components grow for our starting point for working with Loop. But it does feel like, how do we show this to people if it just looks like a text editor?
And that's some of too why we haven't put the gas pedal either. I'm trying to think. We had some overview of from Microsoft and our contacts there, and they were, sharing some of the things you were saying about email and what have you. And so that's the other hard part is you want to bring it to folks, but then it's also it's going to change rather drastically in how it integrates with the other products. So it's also not a true representation, say, I don't know, a year from now, because we've debated, I guess, and again, I've only been here since November, but I guess they did have a champions program, and it was kind of a voluntold type thing, and it faded away, and then we've been recently debating it. So like, we don't even have those people identified to integrate it, to kind of put the gas to. But yeah, it's kind of interesting because it seems like it's going to evolve quite a bit from where it's currently at to.
Yep,
And at the stage that it's at now, the risk is really low, because I remember when I was rolling out an intranet on Office 365, and we were making decisions about whether to make Office 365 groups available, and then they suddenly exposed the SharePoint backend, so we had to roll back that. And then the next year we were going to Skype for Business, but Teams had just been launched, and so it's like, do we do Skype for Business or do we do Teams? But Teams was so brand new, like the overhead of going all in on this brand new product was just too risky for our organization at that time. Whereas with where Loop's at, it's like we've just got these little components, so they're kind of building it up for us.
It adds value, doesn't detract from things. You can enhance the experience in a chat or a meeting and keep those working lists, like the one-on-one example that you showed, Darrell, with the context notes, even action items. So you've added value. You've moved that chat higher up on that value chain. So there's no searching around for finding those different apps and services where your content may have resided. You've come back to the place where you were working. So as Loop extends out into other workloads, emails next. Well, if someone is continuing to work in email, who are we to say that is right or wrong, depending on their use case? But to bring the functionality where they're spending their time enhances their experience and moves them up that value chain again.
I'm already seeing the Loop icon in email. I think it's off. Must be. I can't remember whether it's my personal, whether it's my work one, but it would be an Office Insider thing, maybe.
Yes, yeah, it's an Office Insider. If you've got access to that, which is going to show you an early version of Outlook and what it's going to start looking a lot like Outlook on the web, because they're trying to make that similar experience and speed up the development for various things. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that too. See what I've just done, I've just dragged all of our interactive whiteboard content from Miro, and see the vision I think they have too for Loop is that it is going to be like having this canvas and simplifying, bringing all the content together that we might need to work on as a team. So our ideas might start as a little text box somewhere here that we can co-author together. But as the ideas mature a bit and we've got a list of tasks, and Norm adds a couple of documents that we need to reference, and Rebecca sort of adds a plan or something like that, and we're clicking into these things, it doesn't matter where this stuff lives now, does it? It's just easy to access, and it's all on this canvas that we can all get to. And that's the problem that it's trying to solve, is even with this great tool called Teams and all of these wonderful things we can do with Microsoft 365, content is still in little silos. Which channel, which team, which conversation. But if you can go somewhere and find your loops organized into workspaces, and that, there's a nice one-to-one relationship between the people that are in my team and the project we're working on, then I don't have to think about where that content lives necessarily. And I can engage with it now, live with you today, and we can co-author. Or maybe I missed that little working session and I can chime in and add some content later. And that's that hybrid working where we're not together, but sometimes we are. And we're not doing it at the same time, but sometimes we are. And that's where Loop is trying to support that scenario for hybrid work. Hey, Andrew.
Did anybody hear that they're going to change the file extension?
Dot
Really?
loop.
Yeah, they're changing it to loop to dot loop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. I think we've got everyone back that was around and there. Hopefully that was good and engaging for you to have a chat. I know the balance of 2020 talk and chatter and questions was not possible. What did I not unlock? Question 2. Shocking.
I don't
Sorry,
think you did.
Bex. Here we go. I think that should do it. Yes. Cool. Yeah. Thanks for coming along. I know we're very close to time and I don't want to hold us because of all the various different places we are and when we're joining, but thank you to Norm and to Bex for sharing your stories. I managed to get in and join Amanda and Andrew and listen to Andrew's way that his team is using Loop, and that was a cool story too. Andrew, encourage you to join, if you haven't already, the LinkedIn user group, and just even create a quick post there and share some of that. And for all of you who did join and managed to share your thoughts and experiences, come on over to that LinkedIn group and start a conversation there, because that's where we can continue the conversation beyond this meeting. So hopefully that was really useful to you. We will run another one hopefully next month as well. I'll start a conversation again in that LinkedIn group about what we might want to cover, but it sounds like a lot of people want to talk about where these loops are stored and what does that mean? How about this OneDrive experience here? I want to say thank you too for Amanda. Amanda comes from the product group for Microsoft Loop. So really good to have her asking a few questions and hearing some of the feedback. It's really cool to have that representation, and that who knows what we might share might actually affect the products. That'll be fantastic. So enjoy the rest of your day, your night, your evening. Great to see you all, and hope that this has been valuable to you. Bye for now.
Thanks so much,
care,
Darrell.
guys.
Thanks, Darrell.
Thank
Take
you.
care, everyone.
See you guys.
Thanks
Bye.
all.